What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Gen Sports Corner, live at you for 4/28/2019. And I'm going to be talking about the NFL draft. It just wrapped up yesterday. The 2019 NFL draft has concluded, and there's so much to talk about. My Raiders and the Giants, they both shook up the draft with really controversial first-round picks. Meanwhile, my Eagles also, they had a steady but very productive NFL draft, and they addressed several positions of need. So let's take a little closer look at the Eagles and the Raiders draft selections and see what they bring to the table. And I'm gonna let a couple people get into this live stream before I jump into this. Let's get a few people in here and get this thing jumping off. Because I have a lot to talk about, as well as talking about Game 1 with the Sixers, which was an absolute disaster. And I'll be talking about that briefly as well. But I want to make this video mostly about the NFL draft. And yeah, that's what we're gonna kick it for right now. Okay. So first off, let's go ahead and look at the Raiders. And I've broken this down draft pick by draft pick. I went to NFL.com. I looked up the NFL prospect grades and what their analyses were on for each pick. So first off, let's start with the Raiders. First pick, fourth pick in the first round. What were the Raiders going to do? You know, the first pick, you had Kyler Murray going to the Cardinals. I think a lot of people saw that coming. And then you had a lot of edge rushers on the board. You had the dude from Kentucky, I believe his name was Josh Allen. And then you had a few edge rushers on the board. You had the D tackle, really good D tackle that was really still on the board at that point. And with the fourth pick in the first round, the Raiders select Clelin Ferrell. And I think everybody in their living room had the same face I have right now, which is kind of like, who? Why? I wasn't even really that aware of this guy to begin with. I mean, yeah, he was part of that monstrous front four for that Clemson's defense, but beyond that, I don't know. There's nothing that he really did that stands out to me. So, DN from Clemson, NFL draft grade was 6.07. Should be an instant starter. 6'4", 264 pounds. His strengths, long arms. Good at block shedding. 21 sacks. What's going on, Chris? 21 sacks since 2017. Weaknesses. He's not that fluid. Average closing burst. I'm just not sure that he does any one thing great. Not too much, man. Just going through these draft picks, man. Give you guys the breakdown. I'm not sure that he does things great. And I guess my big question is, was he a great player out of a group of great players on that front four for Clemson? Or was he a good player that was surrounded by a lot of talent? That's the question you have to ask yourself. His comparison for the NFL was Derek Morgan. Now, Derek Morgan, solid defensive end for the Titans. He was solid. Nothing special, nothing great. But at pick number 4, do you really want solid or do you want special? And when you look at this dude, not only does he have to show and prove that he's worth the number 4 pick in the draft, he's going to have to play in the shadow of Khalil Mack his entire career. And if he doesn't pan out to be as good, if not better than Khalil Mack, which is going to be extremely difficult, then people are going to look at him as a bust. And is that fair? I don't know if that's necessarily fair, but that's just the facts of life right now for him. I believe they picked him over the guy from Kentucky because Clelin fit the 4-3 scheme better for Gunther, who's the D coordinator for the Raiders. But there has to be a certain point where you go with talent over scheme fit. I get having to have scheme fit when you're trying to project how a guy's going to be impacting your team, but you can't. Talent is talent. That's just my opinion. I would have taken the more explosive edge rusher that was on the board, which was the guy from Kentucky. Forgive me for not remembering his name. It's an easy name too. I just don't remember it. But I would have gone with the talent over the safer, I guess, safer pick with Farrell. So, just my opinion. Moving on, the 24th pick in the first round. We had a really, really good pick there. We got Josh Jacobs, running back out of Alabama. Projected to be an instant starter, 6.22 NFL draft prospect grade, 5'10", 220. You look at the film, instantly pops out at you. 3 down back. You know, his strengths are 3 down back. He's a violent runner, violent finisher. He picks where he's running and he commits, and he's a headbanger. He's going to initiate contact and try to punish you. I love that about him. Weaknesses, he's not elusive. Kind of like when he picks where he's running, he just goes one cut and goes. There's not too much, not too many special effects, not a lot of lateral movement with him. And he may or may not possess that home run speed. But honestly, I really liked what I saw on tape, man. He was actually someone that I was hoping the Eagles were going to get. But at least one of my teams got it. NFL comparison is Sony Michel. That's a pretty damn good comparison. He really showed up this year for the Patriots. So hopefully we get that type of production out of Josh Jacobs. That would be great. Third first round pick, which came from this might be the Bears first round pick. Yeah, the 24th, Josh Jacobs was the one we traded with the Cowboys for Amari Cooper. And then this 27th pick in the first round was the one that came from the Khalil Mack trade with the Bears. So you have Jonathan Abram, safety out of Mississippi State, NFL prospect grade, 6.1, should be an instant NFL starter, 5'11", 205, ran a 4.45, and when they turn on the film, when I tell you he's a hard hitter, he's a headbanger, the guy plays like he's always trying to tackle with the hit stick on Madden. He goes out there trying to just inflict damage on whatever he's hitting. I really like what I saw on tape. Very rangy, can get to the ball, can make plays that can, you know, he's definitely, you pair him with Joseph, the safety we already have, and you're going to have 2 headbangers back there. It's going to make this secondary very physical. And I know Gunther, our defensive coordinator, he's really about having long, rangy press corners, physical safeties, and just a solid front four that can apply consistent pressure. That's really what his 4-3 scheme is really about. Just having those long armed press corners on the outside that will just hold up the receivers for long enough for your pass rush to get home. So, you know, this guy fits the mold. Now, his weaknesses, he can get a little hit stick happy. So he can miss some tackles that he should make because he's trying to bring the pain a little too often. But, you know, he could be coached up. I take that. I'd rather have somebody who has that mindset that what's mine is mine and I'm the alpha dog out there on the field than somebody who's tentative and doesn't know how to take control of the game. So I like that. It's NFL comparison, Keanu Neal. I think that's a pretty accurate comparison. Keanu Neal, the safety from the Atlanta Falcons. I think that he plays in many ways just like him. So I like the pick there at 27. Second round, 8th pick in the second round, the Raiders selected Trayvon Mullen, cornerback out of Clemson. Another player from that Clemson defense. NFL prospect grade, 5.8. A chance to be an NFL starter, bordering on instant starter status. So, 6'1", 199 pounds, ran a 4.46, tall press corner that can get his hands on you and redirect you off the line and disrupt your routes. His weaknesses, he plays reactively instead of instinctually. So he's going to have to work on route recognition and reading the quarterback's eyes and where the quarterback's going to go with the ball. He's going to have to work on those things. But Paul Guenther can coach him up on that. That can be done. His NFL comparison is Kevin Johnson. And Kevin Johnson, I don't know if he's made an impact as of yet, but he definitely had all the tools to be a very good cornerback. So I see the same thing out of Trayvon Mullen. And I think Paul Guenther can coach him up. He's exactly the type of cornerback in the mold of what we're looking for. So I like the pick. Hopefully Garyon Conley is back healthy, and we compare him with Trayvon Mullen and really have those two, 6'1", 200-pound, long-arm cornerbacks on the outside that can really set the tone for this defense with those headbangers in the playing center field between Carl Joseph and Jonathan Abram. So I really like this pick. Now, we didn't have a pick in the third round. Fast forward to the fourth round. Fourth pick in the fourth round. Max Crosby, edge rusher out of Eastern Michigan. Draft grade of 5.44. Chance to be an NFL starter. He is 6'5", 255. The ran a 4.66. The quick rundown is he flashes a lot of potential in the run and the pass game, but he hasn't grown into his body yet. That's the issue with him. It's really about the potential. If he grows into his body, then I think he can be more consistent because he has, you have problem with power and people manhandling you. You can't be consistent because you can't anchor yourself against these guys that are outweighing you by, 50, sometimes 60 pounds at, guard and tackle. So, a good project pick. 27th pick in the fourth round. Isaiah Johnson, cornerback out of Houston. 5.59 draft grade. Chance to be an NFL starter. 6'2", 208 pounds. Ran a 4.4. He's a press corner with size, just like Trayvon Mullen. However, he's transitioning from wide receiver to defensive back. I believe he's only played 2 years at DB. His first 2 years were at wide receiver. I might be wrong on that, but it's something to that degree. That's the story behind it. So he's a project player. I think it's a good project to work on. If he pans out, great. If he doesn't, no big loss there. 35th pick in the fourth round, Foster Moreau, tight end out of LSU. 5.53 draft grade, chance to be an NFL starter. 6'4", 253 pounds. Ran a 4.66. The rundown on him, he's a run blocking tight end, not a great route runner. You're putting him out there to be a run blocker. If that was the need that we're looking to fill, I'm good with that. It might be very useful to have him out there, so you can come out in 12 personnel. I see, if you don't have good route running, I don't know how big of a pass receiving threat he's going to be. So I don't know if I necessarily would have gone with this pick, but I do know that John Gruden, he's a 3 yards in the cloud of dust type of offensive mind. Yes, he's very innovative, but at the end of the day, he's going to want to run the ball and pound the rock. So I get the move. I don't necessarily know if I agree with it, but I get the move. Fifth round, 11th pick, you have Hunter Renfrow, wide receiver out of Clemson. 5.5 draft grade, chance to be an NFL starter. 5'10", $184. What's up, Rye? Ran a 4.59. Pretty much, he's a very short-handed slot receiver, crafty route runner, knows how to get open. He doesn't have the size, doesn't really have the speed to make you respect him over the top. But I think that he can be very productive out of the slot. We needed to address the position because Seth Roberts or whoever the hell we had in the slot was not going to get it done. So I really like this move with the 5th pick, with the 11th pick in the 5th round. His NFL comparison is Jeremy Curley. That's a very good comparison. If he's anything like Jeremy Curley, this would be an excellent pickup. I extremely happy with that pick. What's going on, Rye? Just giving a rundown on the NFL draft and each pick from the Raiders and the Eagles. If there's certain topics you want to hear me talk about, leave it in the comments. I'm getting to the 7th round pick for the Raiders before I move on to the Eagles. So with the 16th pick in the 7th round, we picked Quentin Bell, edge rusher out of Prairie View A&M. 5.14 NFL prospect grade. Better than average chance to make an NFL roster. 6'4", 219. Gifted athlete, but a raw prospect. And you're taking a flyer at this point in the draft. I like the pick. At this point, I think we had the fewest sacks in the league last year. Something like 13. Something ridiculously low. So I get it. You know, you want to take a flyer on a guy at edge rusher. You know, if he turns into something, great. If not, then it's only a 7th round pick. So I get it. I thought we had a very, very good draft, a solid draft. Mike Mayock had a lot of insight since he's been covering, you know, the NFL draft for years and years at this point. So, you know, he had more of he had his finger on the pulse of college football and what these draft prospects were really about compared to people that aren't doing, you know, draft analysis day in and day out. So, at least for this draft, I'm pretty sure his notes were a book about that thick. So, I thought he had a lot of good picks in the late 1st round and in the middle rounds of the draft. I'm still iffy about the Clelin Ferrell pick. I just really thought you could have got the kid out of Kentucky who just, you see him and you know exactly what it's hitting for with him. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Clelin Ferrell, you don't know, man. You just don't know. And there was another D tackle on the board at that point that could have been possibly the best player in the draft, and he passed over him. I just don't get the logic there. I get you're trying to replace Khalil Mack, but I hope Clelin Ferrell proves me wrong. I hope he does. And I'm just going to leave it at that. With that said, let's flip over to the Eagles side of things. I really liked this Eagles draft. I really liked what they did. So in the 1st round, we had the 25th pick, and as we were approaching the Eagles pick, you know, there were a lot of tackles still on the board, and with the 22nd pick, the Ravens were on the board, and then all of a sudden, the Eagles trade up to that pick. And what do you know? They go ahead and draft Andre Dillard, tackle out of Washington State, with the 22nd pick in the NFL draft. And I thought this was a really, really good pick for multiple reasons. But let's get into it. NFL prospect grade 6.2. Very strong chance to be an instant starter. Not far from having a chance to be a Pro Bowl caliber player. 6'5", 315 pounds. Ran a 4.96, which is pretty much irrelevant for a tackle. It's really about looking at the game tape and how he moves around. And what I saw is he's a very good pass blocker. Has room to grow, but a very smooth. He's a smooth operator on that left side, on the blind side. He engages with pass rushers off the edge, gets his hands on them, and he's able to just stonewall them. I really liked what I saw from the tape. He needs to work on his run blocking. But in my opinion, run blocking is a mindset and a mentality. It's something that you can teach. Pass blocking, much more difficult to teach. That is an art form. Not saying that run blocking isn't an art form, but pass blocking, that is an art form. And some people never truly get that. Some people just never truly get it. And especially nowadays in the NFL, with this being a passing league, having pass blocking is a premium. And even more so on the blind side, having a good pass blocker is a premium. You know, it's a luxury that you shouldn't pass up if you're able to acquire it. So the fact that they were able to get this guy who a lot of people had rated higher than where he got drafted at. I know Ray Didinger had him rated anywhere from 10 to 15. You know, and the fact that he slipped down to the Eagles, you know, and they said that they didn't expect him to be there, and he was their top tackle on their board at the time. And teams can say that, you know, because why would they say that they're wrong if they really thought that they reached on the player? But, you know, the consensus out there is that this guy, people thought he would go earlier, and he didn't. And the Eagles somehow, some way got their hands on him and they were able to draft him. And I think that spooked the Texans out, because then the Texans immediately drafted a tackle right after the Eagles. And maybe the Eagles got wind that the Texans needed help at tackle, and they probably had their eyes on Dillard. So Eagles swooped in, no pun intended, and snatched him up. Very good pick there. I really liked it. Then, you know, in the second round where we had 2 picks, and I was actually talking about this guy probably about a week before the draft. I might have even been talking about it on Playmaker Radio. But one guy that stood out to me that I read about in the article was this guy out of Penn State. He recently took over this year for Saquon Barkley, since Saquon was drafted by the Giants last year. With the 21st pick in the second round, the Philadelphia Eagles drafted Miles Sanders, running back out of Penn State. I wanted them to draft him. I thought they might be wanting to draft him. I was like, if I was the Eagles, he would be one of the top guys on my radar for day 2. And wouldn't you know it, they drafted Miles Sanders. 5.8 prospect grade, chance to be an NFL starter. 5'11", 211 pounds, ran a 4.49. You know, his strengths: patient, shifty as all hell, elusive power. You don't think he's that strong, but he is sneakily powerful. And he has decent hands. Not great hands out the backfield, but he has decent hands. So he has the potential to be a three down back. Some of the weaknesses: he gets a little too cute at times, trying to hit the gap instead of just just going straight through it and getting the sure yards. But I mean, that comes with experience. I mean, Shady was the same way. Not great against top schools, so we'll see if the level of competition really plays into, you know, whether he's going to be successful at this level or not. And he has to work on his pass protection. But I think those are teachable, coachable things. Those are things that can be taught. You can't teach talent. And the one thing that popped out on tape when I watched this guy: very shifty, very elusive. Doesn't have home run speed, but good enough speed. He can break a big run here and there, but he can bounce it outside like that. And that's something that you can't teach. He doesn't have the ceiling that Saquon has, but he can do a lot of the things that Saquon has, just not as good, but he can do a lot of those things. And I think chance to be a starter? No, I think he will be a starter. He's not shady. He's not that elusive, that shifty, but he's pretty shifty. And the same things that I said about Shady when he came out in the draft are the same things that I'm saying about Miles Sanders. Even though he was a second-round pick, just like Shady was, I thought that Shady should have been a first-round pick instead of No Sean Moreno. I said that at the time. I said it after the draft, and it played out to be true. I'm saying the same thing about Miles Sanders. Now, I don't necessarily know if he's better than Josh Jacobs or vice versa, but I definitely think that Miles Sanders had late first-round potential, though. And the fact that we got him late in the second round, I think it was absolute steal. Absolute steal. His NFL comparison is T.J. Yeldon. A healthy T.J. Yeldon, I'll take that all day. So I really like that pick. With the 57th pick in the second round, the Eagles selected J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, wide receiver out of Stanford, 5.73 draft prospect grade, chance to be an NFL starter, 6'2", 225. The quick rundown on him: his weaknesses: not a deep threat, not a lot of scare you down the field speed. His route running is going to need work, but he is a post-up demon. He is a specialist in the red zone. You tell him run to the corner. You don't even have to run a damn fade. You just tell him run over to the corner and just stand there, and I'm going to throw it up to you. And he has strong hands. He's just going to out-muscle people. And that's not typical of NFL wide receivers. They're going to look to create separation and beat you with footwork and route running. But him, I think the caveat with him is he will grow into a better route runner, but he can still be an impact player even as raw as he is as a route runner because he's so damn strong posting up in the red zone. And he's almost like your 2.0 version of Alshon Jeffrey and may or may not be Alshon's replacement 2 years from now if he pans out to be what you think he's going to be. And one of our issues last year in spots was red zone production. And I think that we've addressed a lot of things in this draft offensively because now you have a potential three down back in Miles Sanders to pair with Jordan Howard and Corey Clement. You addressed tackle with the off-injured Jason Peters, even though he still brings you great pass rushing. You have to wonder how durable he's going to be. And to have to lean on Halapoulivaati Vaitai to come in and spell him, we saw that in spots he's okay, but if he has to give you 2, 3, 4 games, you start to see a lot of the deficiencies show up. And that you know, you're going to have to address that because I don't know if, the guy that they drafted last year, the 6'9" guy, I think that he does have a future for this team, but he's not ready at this moment. So I think that the Dillard pick was a good pick, really great pick to shore up that left end. And then to top it off, you address some of the red zone woes with Arcega-Whiteside. You pair a 6'2", 225 receiver with strong hands across from Alshon Jeffrey, 6'3", 220, strong hands, can go up and high point the ball. Then you have Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, 6'5" apiece, 250, 260 pounds. Two more threats in the red zone. So you have 4 guys that are 6'2", 6'3", and above in the red zone, along with a spark plug out the backfield with Miles Sanders. They really addressed a lot of concerns on offense. And then obviously you have the deep threat in Deshaun Jackson to really help you get down the field, to get to the red zone so you can score now with these post-up players in the red zone. Really like the thinking. I really like the picks. Just great job. His NFL comparison is Eric Decker, and I would agree with that. But even more so, I think that Alshon Jeffrey would be an even better comparison for him in terms of high pointing the ball. So, yeah, very good pick in the second round with the 57th pick. 4th round, 36th pick, we picked up Sharif Miller, edge rusher out of Penn State. A little bit of a tweener. 5.53 draft grade. Chance to be an NFL starter. 6'4", 254. Ran a 4.69. Had some burst off the edge. Quick off the edge. Good against the B gap in the running game. He needs to develop some pass route moves. He's more of a power rusher. He doesn't have too many moves to get off the blocks in terms of pass rushing. So he's going to need to work on that. His comparison in NFL is Andre Branch. I really like Sharif Miller. I think it's a good project pick. That's what you're looking for in the 4th round. Not necessarily looking or necessarily thinking you're going to get a starter. You're just looking for the potential for a guy to be a starter. But definitely a contributor on special teams. You need to have that if you're picking them in the 4th round. And I think he will be an instant contributor on special teams. And then last but not least to end off the draft for the Raiders and Eagles, 5th round, 29th pick, Clayton Thorson, quarterback out of Northwestern. 5.4 NFL prospect draft grade. Has a chance to be a backup. 6'4", 222. And I think that's exactly why they drafted this guy. To be Nick Foles' replacement, eventually. His strengths, ball placement, and footwork. I like some of the things that I saw on tape. What he's going to have to work on is his pocket presence. And he can be coached on that. And who better to coach you on that than Doug Peterson? Now, Doug Peterson wasn't a great NFL player, but sometimes the backups have more of an appreciation for the little ins and outs and subtleties because they didn't necessarily have the natural talent to compete at the highest level, but they know the work ethic and the little things you have to do and how to perfect them. And I think they're really going to turn Clayton to a project and really build him up. And I think he has a good chance to be a solid backup to Carson Wentz for years to come. So I really like this pick. And I didn't see the pick made, but I would guess that he was the best guy on their draft board. And he went with the best player at that point. His NFL comparison is DeShone Kizer. Not great, not bad, but could be a solid contributing backup. I really like the move. So that's pretty much the summary of the draft. The other thing that really stood out from the draft was obviously the Giants and the Redskins. The Giants drafting the kid out of Duke instead of Dwayne Haskins. It was a head-scratching move. It kind of made me feel better about the Raiders pick because I was just kind of sitting there stunned to like, why did they pick Farrell out of Clemson, and then the Giants turn around and pick the guy from Duke, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel so bad now because somebody else made a pick that was even more head-scratching than ours was. And I'm going to tell you one thing. Either he's going to be Eli Manning's successor and really prove them right in putting faith in him, or they're going to be kicking themselves for years to come if Dwayne Haskins turns out to be the next big quarterback for the Redskins. Because the Redskins haven't had a good quarterback since Joe Gibbs was winning championships back in the 80s and 90s. So if he turns out to be a good quarterback for the Redskins, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to be on Playmakers Radio Live this Tuesday, and we have a Giants fan there, and I know he had a meltdown on Thursday. I know he had a meltdown. I know he did. So I'm going to be so curious to see what his thoughts are on this. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the NFL draft. I'm not going to talk about the Sixers too much on here because that's not what this video is about. The only thing I will say is they better pick up the intensity. This is the second round. It's when things kick up. It's when they get fast-paced. And, you know, the pretenders get separated from the contenders. So, you know, Kawhi Leonard came out and dropped a cool, you know, just 45 points. You know, nothing big, just something light drip. You know, and the Sixers are going to have to find a way to not stop him because you can't stop him, contain him, and really match them blow for blow with Embiid. Welcome to the podcast. With Embiid and Simmons. These guys are going to have to step up, you know, get it done. That's all I can say about that. So if you guys, I appreciate you tuning in, Kyle. If there are things you want to hear me talk about in my next video, leave them in the comments, bro. I'll make sure to make a video on them. I'm going to be making a video about Game 2 of the NBA playoffs between the Sixers and the Toronto Raptors and things they're going to need to clean up and make better going into Game 2. So I'll make a video about that as well. And I'll be making a video about boxing as well. A lot of things going on in boxing and MMA, so I'm going to be making a video about that. Been putting it off being lazy, but I'm going to get to it. So, yeah, that's it for now. I appreciate the support all you guys have been showing for my podcast and for my music as well. If you haven't already, look in the description of this video. Go to my YouTube channel, genmusic856.com, and go to the playlist, whether it be Gen Music or Gen Sports Corner. Both of those playlists have my new videos, whether it be Tiger's Eye, you know, cue to go check that out with me and Stevie Franks, or whether it be videos like this. Always trying to bring you guys fresh content and, you know, the latest in sports and music entertainment. So check that out. And as always, I appreciate the support. And I will talk to you guys next time. Salute.